Hi friends, this is Holly from Hot Humble Pie. Today I'm going to be crafting with real trash and I'm going to be making some beautiful home decor. And as always, I hope you enjoy the show. This is my inspiration piece on anthropology, and it is an inspiration piece, so it's not a dupe. Dupe is short for duplicate, so I don't show it at the end because I want you guys just to get the feel for what I'm going for. I liked the colors, I liked the height, and when I was looking at high-end decor online, I saw there were other versions of this. Some bottles are tall, and some have tall, like spouts, or I'm not sure what that's called, but like the part on the top. So it got my creative juices flowing, you guys. So I used 3 different kinds of bottles in different shapes and sizes. And I'm using rolls here now that are from the center of like a heavyweight foil. These are super, super thick ones, the kind that you could actually hurt someone when you hit them. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but like it was hard to cut even with a brand new craft knife. I had to saw and saw. They are super thick. You'll see it when they stand up. They're not flimsy. And the trick is they have to fit over the top of the bottle perfectly when you press it down to the base. So I start off by measuring them, and of course I'm making them in cascading heights with tall, medium, and short. And I'm using joint compound to join these two things together. You know, on all of the bottles, I'm going to join that cardboard piece down to the bottle and make it look like it's one connected piece. And yes, you can use spackling for this craft as well. It's just I have some joint compound I haven't used in a while, and I thought it would be nice to use it up. This is the next day when it's dried, and I just lightly, ever so lightly, just sand off any areas that are sticking up that look fake. And I did have some cracking just on the small one, no big deal. For this one, because I wanted it to dry quicker, I did use spackling and I just filled it in, and we are good to go. Since this is glass, I am using the Kilz primer again, K-I-L-Z, and I do need 2 coats of this primer on each of the bottles. I decide to go ahead and use the color Granite Gray by Apple Barrel Paint here to cover the entire bottles up. Now you'll notice I didn't use primer on top of the spackling or joint compound, either one. It wasn't necessary because I knew the paint was going to adhere. But I thought that this would be a good base color to kind of get the look going that I wanted. And it's not going to be exactly like I said, it's not going to be exactly like the anthropology piece. It's more with the anthropology piece, I liked the color blend or color combos. I liked the heights, you know, how they were cascading. I liked that part. So here I am mixing up some white acrylic paint with a little bit of water because the look I'm going for is a streaky look. So I knew if I mixed my paint up with a little bit of water, I would get where it kind of trickled down in rivets almost and gave me a look that would help, I guess, as an under. I've explained in previous videos, it's usually many different processes, or at least more than one process to get a look that you're going for. So I knew I needed my base color to kind of have a look and dimension of its own when I go to do the next step, so that it gives more dimension to that step, if that makes sense. And it just adds to the whole final look, and that's what makes your crafts look really, really high end. So now I'm taking a sponge and I'm cutting 3 different sponges in 3 different shapes here. And this is so I can sponge my colors on. So now I'm using pewter gray from Apple Barrel Paint. And these are all apple barrel paint except for the terracotta color from the company that is now out of business, but you can use any color combination you want. I'm making this for my daughter's home because they have a coastal beach. You know, we live by the beach and they kind of have this boho coastal beach thing going on in their home. And I knew that these bottles would look absolutely gorgeous on her mantle. So that's what I'm going for, but you of course can use any color combination you want. The next color I choose is just a granite gray. I believe that's what that's called, but any gray would do. And again, I'm color washing. I'm tapping this on and you can see me kind of going up and down into the other colors on purpose. And then you'll see me take the sponge and kind of drag it down too so that you get those streaks. There I go. This is something that you're just playing with and kind of making all the colors blend in, and it's definitely uneven. There is no right or wrong here. You just do it by eye and you keep messing around with it until you get the look you like. And if you don't like it, you can always paint it again and start over. Just have fun. So now I'm using the color gray again, the first color that I painted, the very first one. And I'm adding white to it because as you can see there, the blue that I used, I have a blue that's kind of like that coastal blue from Waverly, but I just felt it was like a little too dark for the color I was going. So I used a gray blue color, added white to it, and we're just doing the color blending again. And I took a baby wipe to blend it upwards and downwards because as these colors go up, I want them to be lighter and softer and very, very muted and blended. So you can see the bottom is very textured. Then we have the blended gray, we have the blending blended terracotta color, and then the soft blue that kind of goes up into a light gray. And I didn't show you on the top lid, I also did the same thing blending downwards with the, that was a pewter gray right there. And then I'm taking an iridescent pearlescent silver paint by Folk Art, and I'm going over the entire thing with that silver paint to make it iridescent at the end here. You'll see me do it. The camera's not picking it up so well here. I'm trying to show you how it's shiny now and iridescent, but that's what I do to the top stems to make them look really, really high end. Last but not least, I used a gray color to paint the insides of the tops. I took all 3 bottles outside and painted it in a glossy finish, 2 coats so that they look like ceramic, but this craft came up absolutely stunning, and I hope the camera does it justice. For this DIY, I used some scrap wood, but you could easily use layers of cardboard for this particular DIY. You're going to need some foil. The first thing that I did was trace out the shape of a leaf. Now I thought this looked kind of like a palm leaf, but it actually could be any leaf. But this is a craft that gives you a lot of opportunity to be extremely creative and have fun. For example, if you were doing a coastal decor theme, you could easily draw a shell and change up your colors to blues and aquamarines. There's a lot of opportunity here for variety, so just have fun with it. After you're done drawing whatever shape you choose, take your hot glue and trace those patterns in pencil. It's like a template, I guess. Trace your template with hot glue like you see me doing here. I'm just going to cover all of those pencil marks now with hot glue. This doesn't have to be perfect either. In fact, that's kind of the name of the game here. This is a very textured craft, so don't stress if you've got like bubbles or lumps in your hot glue. You're not going to see it at all. I'm using Dollar Tree glue, in fact, Dollar Tree school glue, and you can see I'm just covering up the wood with the glue, and I'm kind of, when I'm gluing the foil down, pressing gently around where I do the hot glue to make sure that design pops. So don't press too hard because you don't want to totally flatten out your foil, but at the same time you definitely want those designs to pop out for the next step when everything's dry. So this is kind of like a paper mache craft, only instead of gluing little pieces of paper down, you're doing it with foil. And you can see there I'm putting glue on top of the foil if I have to overlap. So just make sure that you're generous with your glue. Use lots of glue. You're going to need it on the sides, on the top, anywhere there isn't any glue, where the foil meets the foil, everywhere. And most importantly, have fun. So you're going to see me here in a minute use a little square. There I go. And I'm crinkling it up this way. I'm kind of crunching it. That turns out to be a much better way to do it. The foil doesn't get as tight, I guess. It doesn't get knotted up. It's really hard to undo if you do it in big pieces. So keep it smaller and just go about covering the entire piece of wood. Now, I was almost going to use cardboard. I just didn't have enough right now, but you could easily glue about 4 sheets of cardboard together, or 5, or make it as thick as you want. Because the sides are covered, nobody's going to know what that canvas is under there. So this is a great craft for recycling those Amazon boxes that you guys were asking me what you could do with. So I decided to take a final layer of Mod Podge and put it on the top just to make sure all of those foil pieces stick down, because I don't want them getting loose. I don't think you have to. I was just a little worried because I'm gifting this to somebody, so I didn't want them to come up. The next step is to take a sponge, a regular sponge. I found that kind of holds more paint and it gets down in the grooves of the foil better. And I'm using the color Territorial Beige here from Apple Barrel Paint, and I'm just covering the whole thing. Now, I'm doing a color blend on this piece. So now I'm taking the color Nutmeg from Apple Barrel and I'm putting that on the top. And this is a color called Terracotta. It's from another company. They don't even make that paint anymore, but you can use whatever browns you want. You could see there how I took my paintbrush and turned it sideways and kind of streaked the paint into the other paint. I believe Casey left hers dry. I wanted mine to blend a little more, so I left mine wet. I don't think it matters. I think if it's dry, you'll have a more pronounced color blend. If it's wet, you'll have more of a muted blending effect between the colors, which is what I was going for. And also, don't worry if a little bit of foil is showing, because at the end, when you're done with all your color blending and everything's finished, the foil doesn't show anymore. So you saw me take khaki there from Apple Barrel Paint and tap the top of that leaf just to bring out the design. And I didn't want it to be so light. Around, I guess, towards the edges there, you can see that I'm touching it up and covering that khaki up just a little bit. And you just use the original colors. Some of them dry even darker because it's like 2 layers of paint, and it just gives it more texture and more dimension. It is an absolutely gorgeous craft. I hope the camera does it justice. It looks almost like leather, so high-end looking. I absolutely love this. So my sister loves this milk. I decided to try it. That's an absolutely beautiful container. So I took this and I cut it out at the top here just to get rid of that lid. And I'm using a Dollar Tree craft knife. I think it comes with 6 or 8 blades. I can't remember, but more than one blade, and it is amazingly sharp. Now I'm taking my glue gun here to gently melt the edge to make it curl inwards so that it doesn't look like a plastic container. And now I'm taking some cuticle clippers just to clip off any unevenness. And, you're just going about making it as even and perfect as you can so it doesn't look like a plastic bottle. And this is what it should look like when you're all done. I took it outside to give it a coat of paint and primer so that everything I paint from this point on will actually stick. And now I'm taking some hot glue on low temperature and making some downward lines. Now I'm going to show you the 3 different looks I get in case some of you like it, just to give you extra ideas, but this isn't actually what I end up doing. And by the way, you can also use an iron to melt the top of this container as well. I didn't want to take mine out, but I've seen people do that where they turn the iron on high and just press it down. You'll get more of an even result, I think. And now I'm using that color Terracotta in the paint that is no longer, and they don't make it anymore, but you can use any color you want. It was a brown and black idea. I thought, oh, I'll paint the top and bottom, like this, and then dry brush a little bit. And I thought that was kind of pretty, but I didn't like it. It still looked like plastic. So I decided to paint the whole thing black because black is always high end, right? And this is going to be outside. So I thought, well, we can't leave the glue on there because with the changes of humidity and heat and cold, I was worried the glue would, disengage and be flapping in the wind there and it would be really embarrassing. And now this is the look we end up with, and I still don't like it. It's a nice look, but it's just not what I was going for. So I put some gold on it, and I definitely don't like it. This doesn't match my decor style at all. So I go back and I'm doing something completely different. I'm putting just a little bit more primer on there to make sure my next process sticks. And I want to try and cover up all of the little grooves and lines from the, I guess, when I peeled the glue off, it lifted some of the paint here and there. So I'm just kind of adding a little extra layer just to get it more even, I guess, for the next process, but I probably didn't really need to do that. I wanted a color that was brown with a bit of maroon in it. So when I mixed paints and I finally got the color I was after, I went ahead and added some baking soda because I'm definitely going to have to add texture. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me because I was holding it and I knew it was plastic, but it just still, to me, and I'd love to hear that in the comments below. I don't know if you can tell from the camera, but it still looked like plastic even when I spray painted it, and I just wasn't happy with that. I wanted it to look expensive. So now I'm texturing it with a very thick baking soda paint mix, and I took the same color, added a bit of white paint, and we're going to put it on the top and bottom, and we're going to kind of do that color blend again, but with the dark color and the light color, and we end up with an absolutely beautiful result. Lots of texture, and you definitely cannot tell it's plastic. I'm totally pleased with how this turns out. Here's another RH dupe favorite here. I saw these and I thought they were so cool. So I'm taking a CD I actually got at the Dollar Tree. It's an old typing program. I found it with the books one year, just a random find at the Dollar Tree. And I'm painting it with a coat of water-based Kills primer. So you have to do the front and back with this. And this is just a piece of spare wood I have. If you don't have one, you can use the Dollar Tree wood rounds, but I just have a lot of spare wood and I want to use them up. And of course I do everything by eye. I was just making a center dot there, and I'm drilling a hole only about halfway down because I'm going to use the Dollar Tree dowel and some wood glue, and I'm going to go ahead and glue it down in the center. In previous videos, I've spoken about how when you try to imitate wood grain, you usually need at least 3 colors to get a realistic look. I want this to have warm undertones, and even though technically you can't see it when I'm all done painting, it's thought that the human eye can still pick that up, and basically it creates more realism because it gives a dimension that, in other words, you can tell it's not fake. So I always start off with the undertones I want the wood to have, and then I go from there. So the first color I use is that sunset, the golden sunset color again from Apple Barrel Paint. And then I take just a creamy beige color and paint it on there to tone that down just a little bit. And now I'm using white, and I'm just doing some white streaks. So this is a process, and see how I dipped the brush in water and I left the water on the brush? That is the magic secret to how I got this look. You're basically going to do a very watercolor type swimming pool on there of colors that you like. And I'm looking at the picture and trying to copy some of the wood grain that I see on those discs. And you'll see what I do here. I'm going to take a blow dryer and I will start to blow dry these because I have like a little mini puddle on there, but I can't put the blow dryer on high. Not just yet, because I'll blow the paint right off and I'll ruin it. It's on low, and I'm going to kind of move it back and forth without disturbing the paint. In other words, you're controlling how you want the paint to go. So sometimes on YouTube you'll see these artists do it with a big like bowl. They'll kind of like tilt the bowl different ways and the paint's flying all over the place. I'm basically doing the same thing with the hair dryer, and then when it finally gets dry enough where it won't fly off, I turn it on high. It's on high right now to dry all of it, you know, so that it's bone dry, and then we do the process again. And you just keep doing this process until you get something that you're happy with. So this is what I start with. And you'll kind of see, I also do the back, and I show you how I did the back as well to give you some more ideas. But I love the way this came out. I think the blow drying method worked really, really well. And this is where I stop. I'm really happy with that look for the next step we're going to take. And there is no right or wrong with this. You just kind of concentrate the little puddles of color where you want them. Now on the back I did the same thing, but I decided to do the black, well, the color black sideways. And you get this look, which is actually another look on one of those discs. So it depends which one you like better. I'm going to leave that as the back side because in my mind, I'd already made up my mind that this was the front and this was the back. So there's no going back, no pun intended. Now the wood in the photo from RH has these little like grooves and nicks that wood has. So I'm trying to, you know, imitate those or duplicate those now by using just a very thin flat brush and tapping on some burnt umber. And the colors I used in this were the nutmeg brown, pavement, country tan, the golden sunset, and then just a white paint. And I think I may have even snuck some territorial beige in there, but again, it's all by eye. It's all what you like. Just pull up some of your favorite colors. And the real one here, you know, the originals from the RH has those little triangles on. So I'm just trying to copy those so we get a look that is the same. And I did it with pencil first, and then I'm going over it with permanent marker. And the last step is just to glue this on. Now I did take that wood piece outside and spray paint it there. I didn't leave that part in because it's kind of self-explanatory, but I spray painted it black. And now I'm gluing it on the back with some hot glue, and I'm going to use some of those clippers later to clip away any excess glue over the sides. I just wanted to make sure I, you know, get it to stick. And lastly, and most importantly, I think, was making this shiny. So I took it outside. I had this spray paint on hand. It's a gloss. I put 3 coats on. It came up beautiful, but better yet, if you guys have an epoxy, like a resin, and you pour it on there, that would look awesome. I just didn't have any on hand, but it would be identical. But I think this came up so, so beautiful. Here's a pretty little shape. And of course, I'm going to point out the things that make it look fake, the things you have to get rid of. There's that seam. You've got to sand that down. You've got to sand the design down. And of course, you got to move that ugly lid top. So I'm just using a utility knife and being dangerous with it because I could slice my thumb, but I got it off. And I took my trusty little Ryobi sander again and sand the top down because that would also look fake if you don't do that. And it comes out looking great. It's smooth, everything's real looking, and we're ready to go. Now I start off giving it my DIY Holly Humble chalk paint, but I don't know what's wrong with me because I forgot that I have this. So if you have spray paint, you guys use that. Don't get the brush strokes because unfortunately I did do 2 coats, but I do have some brush strokes. You can't see it unless you're right up close, and I'm still thrilled with it. but it would have been a lot easier if I had just done that. And there's my traceable off my computer screen. It's just a cute little saying that I picked, and I'm going to put it on the front here, just centering it. And I'm using carbon paper again. Now, I was a little impatient and didn't let the paint dry all the way, so look what happens when I take the carbon paper off. And instead of being angry, I'm checking out going, this is cool, because I remember old vintage enamel actually has that. When it's getting old, it wears down where you can see black through it. It doesn't just have chips. So I take the carbon paper and I start to go crazy and rub it all over it. Now, I do take some white paint later and kind of sponge and soften areas that are too dark, but that happy little mistake gave me a great creative idea. My mother has some vintage enamelware, and it has that where it's darkened spots. So it's all good for me. So I go about doing the top of making it look old and chipped, and you can already see I've mellowed out the black marks now. It's painted white, and I'm just adding little chips here and there. If you had as much fun as I did today, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment. I would love to hear from you. And of course, if you enjoyed today's video, here's another one I think you'll enjoy watching next.